So today I've got a guy fresh back from a 75-hour whirlwind flight, nearly making it to Alaska in a biplane. You'll want to stay tuned to this. This is the Jet Set Podcast, and I'm your host, Chris Kiocho. This show is your ticket into the world of general and business aviation. You're going to want to stay tuned, and welcome aboard. Welcome to episode 1 of the Jet Set Podcast, and boy, today have we got a show for you. I've got our very special guest that I'm excited to bring you, and I brought him on because when it comes to launching a podcast, it's all about timing and execution, and my guest today knows a little thing about each of those things. He's the first African-American air race pilot ever to enter the Reno National Air Race and have a podium finish. He's a pioneer in his craft. He's an athlete. He's a scholar, entrepreneur, and champion. He comes to us via Temecula, California, by way of Austin, Texas. He is Anthony Oshinuga. How are you, man?
Hey, Chris, what's up, man? I'm well. Thanks for the really great introduction. I'm flattered. Doing well, man. How are you doing today?
Doing fantastic here. You know, it's the summer. We all
It
love
is.
to get out and enjoy the weather. And again, I mentioned our intro. You're fresh back from a attempted flight up to Alaska. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I got booked for an air show in Alaska in Anchorage, Elmendorf Air Force Base out there, and you know, they booked me 2 years out. So I said to myself, okay, I wonder why they're booking me 2 years out. But now I totally realize why. I mean, it was a treacherous track up north through the mountains. I mean, I'm flying. I mean, it was really a long flight. We didn't make it. We almost made it. We got stuck due to weather, and that's something unfortunately we have no control over. Just because weather is God's creation, we can't move a lightning storm out of our path. We just gotta wait until it moves away. And this particular storm kind of sat there for 5 whole days, which ruined our whole expectations of getting to Elmendorf on time.
Man. So obviously you've been flying for some time now. I mean, obviously to get to that point. But for our listeners that aren't familiar with you, can you tell us about your backstory? You know, how long you've been doing what you've been doing? How'd you get started? And maybe talk about some accomplishments you've gotten along the way.
Sure. Yes, I'm actually a late bloomer, but I got started in aviation when I knew I wanted to be an aviator at the age of 5. My parents were both from Nigeria, so I was born in Austin, Texas, so I'm the first generation there. So I got kind of hooked in aviation just by my father simply being invited out to the airport, and the guy told my father to park his car on the runway on the approach end. Um, and turn the car around, and airplanes were flying over the car, landing, and I was sitting in my dad's lap, thinking that the airplanes were going to hit the car, but evidently they didn't. They flew right over the car and landed, and I was astonished. And I told before I could get the words out of my mouth and say, "Hey, Dad, what is that?" He already knew what I was going to ask. He answered it. "These are airplanes, son." I said, "Well, okay, and that's what I want to do." So yeah, I got started. So my I guess involvement of aviation started at a young age, but actually my flying career didn't start till I was about 22 or so, or 21, right after college. Because after college, I was able to buy my own put myself through flight school and whatnot, and get my pilot's license and all that good stuff. So I've been flying for about 12 years now. I'm 32 years old, so I've been flying for about 12 years. And every year has been a journey. It's been a journey. I've learned an incredibly large amounts of just aviation related situations. I'm lucky enough to have mentors in my corner that help me, keep me safe, and give me kind of spank me with my hand if I do something wrong, or if I do something I shouldn't be doing, which helps me, helps out a lot. Um, yeah, so I mean, aviation has been around all my life. Although I did get my degree in mechanical engineering, but I kind of moved away from that and said, no, aviation is where it's at for me.
Yeah, so I mentioned in our intro, you're an athlete, a scholar, entrepreneur, champion. So you got bit by the aviation bug early, obviously getting to experience
Yeah,
that at the airport.
yeah.
But growing up, I mean, going through school, you were quite the basketball stud, I hear, right?
I'm all right. I mean, I appreciate it. I didn't. I'm not in the NBA, so I guess I'm not that good. But I'm good enough to pick up a basketball and shoot through the hoop. But yeah, I played college Division 1 college basketball, collegiate basketball, and in California, and that was a good time. And I got my degree in mechanical engineering at the same time. And then like I said before, graduated and started working for an engineering company for a little bit, and I was sitting in the office from 8 to 5, and I said, this is not for me. I'm in Southern California, the sun is shining, and I'm in the office. So I broke loose from that and started chasing my aviation passions.
Yeah. So you said after college you paid your way to get through flight school, and obviously
Yeah.
that's not easy getting through flight school. But let's backtrack again one more time. So you're a student athlete, right? What was that like balancing your daily schedule of academia and athletics?
You know what? I think I'm. It was difficult to answer your question. It's very difficult, but I made it through because I was very disciplined. It required a lot of focus from me and determination. I couldn't. When my buddies wanted to go, party and stuff, like I said to them, "Nah, I got this multivariable calculus equation that I can't figure out right now. So let me go ahead and tackle this, guys. I'll see you tomorrow." So no, yeah, I was definitely just focused on either on the basketball court, or if I'm off the court, it's school. And it helped me out, because otherwise I don't think I probably would have been on a 10-year program or something like that if I did partying and playing.
So obviously a lot of that discipline kind of carried over into when you got into flight training. So when you got into that, how long did that take you to get from explain to our listeners how long that took you to get from your initial discovery flight to, let's say, your solo to actually getting licensed, and then your progression from there?
Okay, well, my discovery flight happened when I was like 15 years old, so 15, 16 years old. But I was unable to put myself through school until I graduated and had a job. So if we start from that point on, it took me about 3 years, 3.5 years to get everything. And what I mean everything is, you usually, as a pilot who starts off, who wants to become a pilot, he has to get something called the PPL. It stands for private pilot's license. You get that first. It takes 40 hours, but nobody really gets it in 40 hours. The national average is 65 hours. And those hours, to break it down for the listeners, is different from a work hour, right? You see, you might say, oh, 40 hours in a week, I could do this in 2 weeks. No, every hour is excruciating. Your brain is firing on all cylinders, because you have to listen to the instructor coach you. You got to fly an airplane. Now you go from 2-dimensional space to 3-dimensional space. In 2-dimensional space, I mean, you drive cars. You guys are used to going left and right, back up, forward. That's it. But an airplane, we have up, down. Now we can roll on an axis. We can go vertical. Right? It's a different sensation. So your body's in an hour, your body's overwhelmed. So usually 40 hours, if you're really on it, you can probably get it done in probably 4 months. If you're really 3 to 4 months, if you're really on it. So once you get your PPL, your private pilot's license, you have two choices. You can go get your what they call an IFR, is your instrument. It's instrument flight rules. So you can fly through clouds, or you can fly through adverse conditions, or you can fly blind. Right? You don't need to look outside. You can fly through the instruments, or you can get your commercial pilot's license, and that just allows you to gives you more freedom. You can fly through airspaces. You can charge people for flights and stuff like that. My path is, I got my private PPL, and then for my PPL, I got my IFR, instrument flight rules certificate, and then I got my commercial license, and that all took me 3 years. So, but it's about a year for every certificate.
Cool. So it's not overwhelming, but it is an investment in time. And we know, again, a lot of people I think are hesitant to get into flying and actually the progression of it because of that time investment. But also, we know it's a financial investment, right?
Yeah,
Um,
it's one of those investments where, for instance, so my first license, my first certificate, the PPL, um, it took me, I think, 65 hours to get, and I spent about $10,000 to $11,000 getting it. So that's a significant investment. So one person, I mean, you would know right away if you're not, after your first 2 hours of flying, spending a little bit of money. If your heart's not in it, you're definitely going to spend $10,000. You'll quit. You'll be like, oh, this is not for me. But those who actually put themselves through school on their own dime and spending 10K, they're in it for the long haul.
yeah. What do you think, aside from the cost? Because that seems to be a big discussion in our industry. Is not so much that there's a shortage of pilots. Again, depending on who you ask, but qualified pilots. What do you think's holding people back from, I guess, getting more invested in to the progression of flying? Because again, as you mentioned, your PPL, you're just able to fly visually, maybe fly the family around. But if you're actually wanting to travel and commute and do longer hauls, you're going to have to get some sort of IFR certificate and eventually progress to your commercial license to be able to operate in some of the more congested airspaces, right? What do you
Yeah.
think?
So
What do you think's holding people back from that?
it's commitment. I think people are scared of commitment sometimes. I think this is one of the things because and hopefully this can answer the question a little bit with analogy. So people always ask me, like, Anthony, why do you fly? Why do you do air shows and airbags and air racing? Why do you just fly regular? Why you do all this crazy stuff in aviation? Why are you a pilot? And what I tell them is like, listen, if I can answer that question, I would. But my answer to you is, I didn't choose aviation. Aviation chose me. I just happened to be in my dad's lap as a car was flying over the car, as an airplane was flying over the car, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And then I just kind of just because if you look at my family, they're not even none of my parents or my mom or my grandpa, anyone in my family are pilots. I'm the first generational pilot, so it's yeah, it's just interesting. So going back to your question, yeah, I think that it's commitment. I think people, need to be committed. It's hard to find commitment these days.
Yeah, I agree. And when you said that aviation chose you, I mean, obviously, again, you left a pretty promising career in the engineering or pharmaceutical world to
Hmm.
leave to go to aviation because it was your passion, right? Do
Yeah.
you think people are having a hard time relating to aviation and finding that passion with what we do?
What we do as as aviators?
Yeah, as aviators or the aviation industry as a whole, because from my perspective, when I start looking at our industry, the only time you ever see stuff in the news about aviation is always something negative, right? It's an
Right.
airplane crash, or it's poor customer service, or baggage, any number of things. It always seems to be negative. There's never like, hey, look how awesome and inviting this community is, because it seems that if you know about this community, you were introduced through a family friend or a friend of the
Yeah.
friend, or you have somebody in the family, but your everyday person on the street, there's not really any interaction or any incentive for them to interact more with our industry. Would you agree?
I do agree. I do agree. There's nothing out there. There's no, it's not like Magic Mountain or Disneyland where it's always advertised on TV or you see it in the newspapers or even the news. Yeah. So basically, our source of media comes from ourselves. So, like for instance, if you ever check out my Instagram or my Facebook, I'm always blasting aviation stuff, and I'm not sugarcoating anything. I'm giving you the real deal. This is what aviation is about, and many people love what they see on my page just because it's exciting to see a guy jump in his tail dragger Cessna, fly into a dry river bed with a bunch of friends, um, flying along his wings, who land, pitch a tent up, make a fire, make s'mores, have fun, fall asleep, wake up in the morning, pack their tents back in their airplane, and fly back home. That's amazing. So we don't see that advertising anywhere. So I try to show that this is what we do. This is what we do. And I think if more people were exposed to that, we'll probably have a lot more pilots
Yeah.
because it's just a different mode of operation. It's a different mode of transportation that people are not used to seeing.
Yeah. Well, and that's why we're here today. But then the other thing too, there's more to aviation than the big fancy jets that everybody thinks is
Yeah,
all to our industry, right? And then
yeah, exactly.
for our listeners, I'll kind of break down aviation, because if you look at aviation as a pyramid, you have the industry as a whole, and then you've got basically three main components. You've got military, commercial, which are all the scheduled airlines, and general aviation. And general
Yeah.
aviation is broken down into probably two subcategories. Obviously, private, which is Part 91 for the techies out there, and then Part
Hmm.
135,
Yeah,
which is the
yeah,
charter, right?
yeah. Exactly.
And there's so much more to this industry again, and that's why I love having you on the show, because for the everyday guy that might not be able to afford a multi-million-dollar aircraft, um, something like you're doing, hopping in a single engine Cessna or a Cirrus or something that you and your family or friends can take, like you said, and go land in places, pitch a tent, and just get to more places than typically you're able to. Because what people also might not know is that the commercial airlines only get into about 500 airports across the country.
Right.
When you fly privately, or through GA, you have access to over 5,000 airports. That's
Right.
huge.
Way more. Yeah, way more than in commercials. Yeah.
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 So just knowing that you're able to get all over the place, you've obviously done air shows all over the country, all over the world. What's a good memory, or what's your most fondest memory that sticks out in all your travels and all your time doing air shows and acrobatics and all that?
Um, so one of my fondest memories in air shows and airbags would be probably performing at Miramar, the Miramar Air Show here in San Diego. I mean, it's probably I think it's the most prestigious. I think it's arguably one of the most prestigious air shows in North America. So I was able to go there as a rookie, my first year doing air shows, and go perform there in front of man, I think it was either 500,000 people or more. And it was a great time. The community, the aviation community was great. I was able to fly alongside Sean D. Tucker, who's going to be retiring here, next year. I had an opportunity to fly with him and other great aviators as well. That was one of my fondest memories. I mean, it was definitely great. Another fond memory that's just aviation related, I would say, is definitely Oshkosh. If you haven't never, if no, if the listeners on this program, if you've never been to Oshkosh Air Venture in Wisconsin, I please go. It's like Coachella for aviators. It's a mess. I love it. It's literally a mess. You wake up. So what we did, we flew our Cessna from San Diego to Wisconsin, and we landed. We thought we landed early, but it was a lot of airplanes already on the ground, and every so you see airplanes there. They pitched their tent underneath their wings, so we did the same thing, and it was great. So we went to sleep, woke up. I remember I woke up. My alarm was the noise of a few Rolls Royce engines, Mustang, P-51 Mustang, coming in and buzzing the runway at like 7:30 in the morning. I was like, this is amazing. So I get up, and as I open my tent, I walk out the tent. I smell like fresh eggs and coffee. And so somebody across from me has this little portable, I don't know, stove pot thing. He's making some eggs. He looks at me and says, "You want some breakfast?" I'm like, "Sure." I walk over there eating breakfast with him and watching airplanes land. It's amazing. And then they have concerts every day. They have seminars, presentations. It's an amazing show. So that's another fun memory I had
No, that's
regarding aviation.
that's awesome. So Oshkosh, 'cause we know that that's coming up.
Yeah, next week.
Is anybody, because you said you fly in? I mean, do you have to fly in? I mean, for people that are wanting
No,
to just check it out, well, what can they expect? Again, I love that you said Coachella for
yeah,
aviation.
it's
But if
awesome.
you're an absolute newbie to aviation and you're like, well, this sounds legit, like a crazy time. I want
Right.
to go check it out.
Yeah, so
What
I
can
would
somebody
recommend
expect in that?
yeah, what people the newbies you can't fly into Oshkosh. It's Oshkosh, that's where the event's being held. I mean, commercially, I don't think they're accepting any commercial flights, but if you're GA, you can fly in there. GA meaning general aviation, smaller aircraft, Cessna, Cirruses, and stuff like that. But you can fly into Green Bay, Milwaukee, Appleton airports right there, and I think from there to the Oshkosh, it's probably like a 30-minute drive. Milwaukee's an hour drive, but everything else is about 30 to 45 minute drive. You drive in there, you buy your ticket for what, $10 or something like that, $20. You walk in, have a burger, have breakfast, meet some aviators, have fun. It's a concert. It's a show every day. It's just like Coachella. Just aviate. You just have aviators there. That's all it is. It's the same thing.
Yeah. So what would you say about the community? Is it pretty welcoming? Again, nobody knows that you're a newbie, right? Unless you're walking up and just
Yeah,
googly
nobody.
eyed, right?
Yeah, nobody. Yeah, nobody's gonna know that you're a newbie. Um, but the aviation community is definitely welcoming. I mean, it's so the aviation community is so small, so we want more. We want to grow the community. So we'll definitely accept anybody with open arms. And if you have any questions, you want to go flying, just stop and ask. You never know, you might get a yeah.
Yeah. And obviously, it gets you started and you get going and then you end up like success story. So piggyback off that, what's a recent success story, I'm sorry, that you had? I know that you stopped in Corvallis on your way back from your attempted trip
Yeah.
to Alaska. That might be a recent success, but is there something else that it's kind of noteworthy that you want to share with us?
Um. Let's see here. Yeah, I just got first. So I had the competition here in Corvallis. Got first place in overall. Um, and we're lucky enough to finish first place in the freestyle flight and second place in the known flight and then third place in the unknown. So we got medals for all categories. But um, before then, no, I don't think so. It's been no, not yet. Nothing yet. So the big accomplishments are coming soon. So we have Reno Air Races this coming up September, and we have the USA National Airbag Championships too as well in September. So those are noteworthy to kind of pay attention to.
Nice, nice. And then Explain to us again when you said you had first place in the freestyle, known and unknown. Again, for people that aren't familiar with some of these competitions, explain to us what those three different kind of disciplines all entail.
Yeah, so basically, when you go to an aerobatic competition, you're going to be flying three different flights. The first flight's called the known. So that known is published at the beginning of the year, so all the pilots have access to those figures, and those figures are studied. You have it all year. It doesn't change the whole year. So every contest you go to, you're going to be flying that known. Those known figures comprised of either between 8 to 12 figures, and you have to find pretty exactly. And you get judged by a panel of judges that sit on the ground who watch you fly these figures. So you fly that one first, and the second flight is called the freestyle. So freestyle is something that you develop on your own. It's comprised of a few categories of maneuvers that you put together that you can fly well, that you like, how it comes together. You put together and you fly that in front of judges against. So you fly your free in front of judges against the other competitors' freestyle sequences. They have to do the same thing. And then last but not least, you have something called the unknown. This is the one that every pilot kind of gets nervous about. So essentially, the unknown is, someone somewhere puts these figures together, and after your freestyle flight is done, they hand you a piece of paper and say, "Okay, here's your unknown." Everybody has to fly the same unknown. You have 12 hours, approximately 12 hours, to study that unknown. Come back the next day, jump in your airplane, and fly it exactly in front of judges. So that's the one that gets everybody. That's the one that makes or breaks you, and that's because you got to remember, because you have the known flight, you have all year to study that. You have your own freestyle. You made that. You should be able to fly that pretty well. And then you're left with the unknown. That's the one that, like, again, gets everybody. So that's how that works out.
It's like a dance battle in the air, right?
Pretty much. Yeah, we're definitely pop blocking up there for sure.
Now take us again back to the beginning as you got all started, because obviously you've got a very unique path. What are some things you wish you knew before you got going and doing what you're doing?
Well, I wish, um, well, I wish I knew how expensive the sport was. So at least that I had like maybe 10 years to kind of save up or figure that portion out. Um, Also, there's little things, there's little quirks here and there, like finding a coach, and a mentor. I wish I would have known that sooner, because the sooner you get a coach and a mentor, the better it is for you. It's just like everything, like even in academia, in academics, you want to do well in calculus, you get your tutor or coach or whatever you want to call it, to help you out with that. Um, let's see, other things that I wish I knew. Um, I think that's pretty much it. Because I mean, everything else, I basically work through determination, passion, and consistency. So with those three attributes, those things kind of answer all the questions that or all the speed bumps or hurdles that I might face. They kind of give me an answer, because it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to give up. So how do we sit down and figure this out? And because of passion, I can get through some stuff, right? Because of consistency, I get better. So those three, I operate with those three attributes, and yeah. So I don't really. It's just that I wish I would have known how to get a coach and a mentor early on. I wish I could, have that in the books.
Yeah,
That
no,
would have
that's
been great.
good. And so everybody struggles, and you kind of mentioned there, because of the ethic and the passion, you're able to work through those. But explain us something that you might struggle with, or one area that you think you'd like to improve upon for us.
In specifically what in what area?
Uh, in aviation, maybe
Aviate.
maybe in your career, maybe aviation, just something that's kind of it's been a hurdle for you that you're either working through, or it was a big hurdle that you accomplished, but something again where we know kind of about your struggles, because again, it's not all rainbows and butterflies. It's not always
Yeah,
clear
yeah.
blue in 22 where we can go flying and it's uninterrupted, right? Everybody
Right.
hits roadblocks or stumbles along the way. What's something that Anthony faces or kind of struggles with?
Yeah, I think one of the struggles, to be quite candid and transparent. I think it's because I'm unique in the sport. I find myself, you know, watching what I say and what I do all the time. And the reason why I struggle with that's because I like to be natural. I'm a natural guy, but sometimes, you might be around a group of older, the older community, which don't really, because we're like the new generation of aviators, right? We're millennials per se, I guess, kind of, right? So we operate differently. Like when we go to air shows, we want vegan, we want organic food, where the old school guys, they want a big fat hamburger, you know what I'm saying, with all the relishes on it. So it's just to give you, it just the struggle for me is sometimes is to connect with the older generation and not step on their feet or toes, because at the same time we do have to respect them, because they everything we're trying to do they've done and failed and they know the answer to, right? So it's like, damn, we have to, there has to be like a happy medium between that. So it's a struggle, because sometimes you get those older generations that are just stuck. They're not changing their mind. They don't want change. This is it. So the struggle is change, but to do it in a way where it's respectful and no one feels like they've been stepped over or disrespected or anything like that. So that's something that it's like chess.
No, I like that, and I think that's the unique thing about aviation because every other industry struggles with the difference of generations in the workforce, right?
Yeah.
But aviation, um, because like you'd mentioned, all these guys have done it before. It's kind of like you've got to pay their dues. You've got to follow in their footsteps. Whereas other industries can be disrupted day and night,
Absolutely.
because of
Oh
technology.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Aviation isn't to that point yet where it can be disrupted. So I think
Right.
that's one of the unique nuances of our space, which probably people didn't realize. And I like that you brought up again that we're having that difficulty connecting and relating to the older demographic, because they're like, well, I did it this way, you've got to do it that way, and
Right.
we're always looking for a different way or a better way to do things. And sometimes, like you mentioned, that stepping on people's toes or you're bruising somebody's ego, you've got to kind
Yeah.
of be respectful of that. So that's a really good story to
Yeah.
share with us. Now, when you're flying, are there a couple tools that you like to use, or maybe something that's lesser known that you kind of came up with your own, that people might look into when they start their flying journey?
Um, Tools. Let's see here. I mean, uh, I think a big tool to utilize in the aviation industry, especially GA pilots, AOPA. AOPA it's a huge resource for all pilots out there. I mean, they have answers for. I mean, you wouldn't believe they have answers for everything. They got insurance people that answer insurance questions. They have, let's say, if you're in trouble with the FAA, they got like attorneys and lawyers. If you want to do call them. I actually call them. I say, hey guys, listen, I'm flying my pitch from San Diego to Alaska. They say, you're doing what? And so they're because they have specialists that help you plot your cross country flight, right? So I utilize all my resources. So they have people that do that. If you have questions regarding certifications and stuff, they have it all. They have it all. So it's a great tool. ALP is a great tool to utilize. So that's the starting point. I would recommend the viewers or the listeners here today to go check out AOPA.com, or is it
Nice.
.com or org? It's by AOPA. Just Google AOPA and see what happens.
Nice. Yeah, we'll put that in the show notes there and get people going. Yeah, that's a great starting point for people to get going into that.
Yeah, it's a great tool.
Um, Now, your day again, obviously, you're doing something pretty unique because I think most people's first interaction with aviation is probably the commercial airlines, right? They think that
Yeah.
you get suited up and you show up and you fly from point A to point B. But obviously, your day and then everybody else in GA and business aviation is much different. So,
Hmm.
walk us through your typical morning and kind of the things that make you tick and get you up and revving for the day.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So yeah, I wake up. I generally try to start my day at 6 o'clock. So my alarm's going off at 6. Um, Especially in the summertime, because the sun rises early and it gets hotter in the middle of the day. Wake up at 6, get up at 6, brush my teeth. I go for a mile run. It's either, I do mile sprints or mile runs. So when I say mile sprints, it's just
Mile
intervals.
sprints. Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm doing like, well, I'm running a mile, but within that mile, I'm doing like sprints, like 100-yard dashes real
There you
quick and
go.
then stopping and then walking. Yeah. So I'll do that in the morning, get back, do some push-ups, calisthenics and stuff like that. Eat a very light breakfast because I'm about to go fly. So I eat like, I love oatmeal, some eggs, and throw some raisins on it. That's it. Don't put nothing in my oatmeal. So that gets me going. And then I go to the airport, and my coach is usually there at 8 o'clock in the morning. Or if he's not, I just fly by myself, and I do 3 flights a day. So they're 30 minutes a piece. So start at 8, and I'm not done probably till noon, because I give myself 30 minutes between the flights. So get that in early in the day, right? So I'm done early in the day. I'm done. After that, if I have my coach there, after every flight, we'll debrief and talk about what I did wrong, what I could do better, how can I improve, where am I at, what's the next step. So it's a very, very, detailed thing we do. And then around noon, I'm done. So noon is lunchtime. I'm pooped. I'm tired. So I'll go grab something healthy to eat. And then after that, after I do that, I'm usually just doing a lot of admin work because I run a aerial scenic touring business too. So we give aerial scenic flights over the vineyards here in Temecula, California, 30-minute flights, and then we send our clients to go wine taste after. So usually I'm doing admin work for that, getting that, make sure the business is doing well in that aspect. And then in between 12 and 5 is, running the business, doing admin work for air shows, booking more shows, meeting more people, talking to sponsors, whatnot. And then, my day's coming to an end. So I usually either go around 6 o'clock, I go to the gym and play some basketball for cardio. So I play at LA Fitness there in town. And after that, I'm wiped. I shower, dinner, I'm in the bed. Good night.
Good night.
Yeah.
All right. So when you talked about or flying, I'm sorry. Most people don't know that we both flew Blackhawks, but I think ours are a little different. I flew Blackhawk helicopters in the military.
Yeah.
You've named your airplane the Blackhawk, right? Talk,
Yes, it
talk
was
to us.
dubbed.
Talk to us about your plane. Let us know what your plane's like. What's special and unique about it.
Well, the plane is very special, and the reason why I say special is because in aviation, I cover a lot of spectrums. So the three top spectrums that I cover is one is air racing, which is and the second one is competition aerobatics, and the third one is air shows. Those are three different types of aerial maneuvers required in each segment. So this aircraft actually allows me to do all three. Whereas whereas many airplanes you can't do all three. Either you're going to do air shows with this airplane, it's only capable of doing air shows, or it's only capable to go fast and do air racing, or it's only capable of doing competition aerobatics. Usually, it's hard to find an airplane that can fit in the middle. So my airplane is special because I can do all three with one airplane. So I didn't have to go buy three different airplanes. Right now, I'm starting to outgrow some categories, so I'm thinking about sooner or later I might have to buy an airplane. But right now, as it stands, we're doing well. Um, the airplane's highly modified, so it weighs 788 pounds, so 800 pounds, really light, lighter than most cars out there. Um, it has been pumped up. The engine has been pumped up, so it sees about 220 horsepower, and that's pretty fast for a plane that weighs 800 pounds. It's pretty light, and I'm way about 185, so we're pretty light altogether. Um, and the airplane is a strong airplane. It's a little mini mite. It's my little rocket ship. So it's holding together pretty well. So yeah, that's why it's special. So it's been helping us out. Put us on podium at Reno. It's done some things at U.S. Nationals and air shows. So I'm happy with her.
Nice. What's your dream airplane to own?
My dream
If money
airplane.
money was no issue, and Anthony's
Uh,
last plane that he would ever buy, what would it be?
I think it would be. I mean, not that I think it would be. It would definitely be a P-51 Mustang. P-51D. So those have been outfitted sometimes with two seats, so you can bring people on for a ride. Yeah, I would definitely want something like that. P-51
Little
Mustang.
throwback to some military aviation there. That's
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up here, Anthony, what's the winery that you do the aerial tours for, and where can they find information on that?
Yeah. So information you can go on the website. It's airoshi.com. That's AIROSHI.com. The wineries we partner with is Faulkner Winery, Europa, and Palomar Winery. So we partner with those three wineries.
Nice. And then where can people find you online with social media?
Yeah, just go on Anthony Oshinuga. And just type in Anthony Oshinuga anywhere you are. So that's ANTHONY. Last name is spelled OSHINUGA.
All right. So that's Anthony online. You can find him Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and anthonyoshinogo.com, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, Anthony, hey man, it's been a pleasure having you on the show today. I hope you enjoyed it. Is there
I definitely did.
one last word of wisdom you want to leave for our listeners?
Um, I guess for all those aviators or potential aviators out there that want to become a pilot, I would just say just don't. If that's your dream, don't stop. Keep going because it's definitely not easy. I'm not gonna say it's easy, but it's definitely achievable if you just stay focused and stay passionate and focused about your goals. You'll get there.
Awesome. Thanks, Anthony.
No problem.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening to the Jet Set podcast. You are the reason we do it, and it would seriously mean the world to us if you can go and leave a rating on iTunes. Your recommendation is the fuel that keeps us going.